Hey everyone, welcome back to Kingdom College. It's Celine and we'll be going through Power Reading Test 47 today. So before we begin the test, I just want to put in some key points for this video. So firstly, I'd like us to try to infer conclusions through logic. So what I mean by this is that I'd like us to use our own reasoning sometimes because sometimes the text isn't really direct with what they want us to know. Sometimes they'll try and say it to us in a creative or figurative form, which is really great in text. But sometimes, if we don't completely understand it, we might have to use our own reasoning and our own judgment to figure out what's going on. And secondly, I'd like us to learn or to practice recognizing figurative language and decoding its meaning. So this kind of goes back to not really understanding the text. Sometimes it means this figurative language, it doesn't say what it actually is trying to convey. So we need to try and think creatively. We have to try and imagine the image that the composer is giving us or the scenario perhaps. So it'll help us creatively in terms of understanding the text, but also well, hopefully when we write our own texts. Now, this is the first text we have. It's To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is just an extract. This is the introductory part of the novel. If you guys are not familiar with this classic, it's mainly about a lawsuit that is in regards to racism, particularly with Black people. That's all we really need to know to answer these questions. So please read this in your own time, and we'll go ahead and answer the questions together. And this is the second part of the extract. So for question 1, the main reason that it is a sin to kill a mockingbird is because of what reason? So in this case, I can actually find the word mockingbird in the extract. So if you guys are looking for, let's say, like a direct answer, try and find the keyword first and then take a look at the extract if there's any like figurative language or any reasoning or logic that you need to use to get your answer. Anyway, in this occasion, we were able to get the answer by just locating the keyword, which is mockingbird. And if you look at the extract put on the screen, mockingbirds are seen as innocent because they only bring well, I guess, goodness to human lives, right? They don't do anything harmful. They are, they're well-intentioned creatures. So the answer for question 1 would be D. Mockingbirds are innocent. So for question 2, this is the first reference to the book's title. From it, can you determine the main theme of the novel? So if you guys read the extract carefully, you'll realize that it's not actually about, well, different species of birds, right? So A and B wouldn't be a good answer in this case, right? They're trying to tell us a little bit about society and, well, its structural issues. So for C and D, right, for D, we can't say too much about this topic, right? So the idea of childhood is not necessarily clear, whereas C is, right? The conviction of an innocent man due to racism. So we already have the metaphor of the mockingbird being innocent, right? So that means that it's a sin to kill a mockingbird because of its innocence. So the mockingbird is supposed to be a metaphor for the innocence of a person of color. So C would be a suitable answer in this case rather than D, because we don't have enough information about the childhood. But we do have an idea of how racism might work in society and how unfair and unjust it is. So that is why C is the best option. So for question 3, from Scout's description, we can determine that her father is a what? So if you look at the extract up on the board, you'll realize that he was not a sheriff and he did not farm. So we can't say that they were a sheriff. They also mention later on in the text that the person does not shoot. So that's a giveaway that they don't They don't work as a professional shooter. In this case, lawyer would be a good example because throughout the text they also talk about like these cases, these laws and legislations. So that seems relevant for their occupation. Therefore, A would be a good option. This is our second text, The Bamboo Flute by Gary Disher. So please read this extract in your own time. Just take a good look at the detail of the dialogue and how the characters interact with one another, and then come back to this video when you finish reading. So in this extract, we have two main characters. We have Paul and Mr. Riggs. Mr. Riggs and Paul don't seem to know each other very well because Paul seems to have this really strong skill of creating flutes. And in order to have a strong skill, you need to take a lot of time to master it. You might also be quite well known for it. So for Mr. Riggs to be surprised that Paul could do well, and Paul also being confused at the praise of Mr. Riggs shows that they don't really know too much about each other. They keep surprising each other with new information that seems to be, obvious information for someone that you're used to. So using this information to answer question 4, at the start of the passage, Paul is confused because he did not expect Mr. Riggs to be kind, right? So one of the characters are actually puzzled at the fact that the other person is the way that they are, right? But if, let's say, Paul had actually taken the time to get to know Mr. Riggs, then he would know that he was kind. So this is a very strong inference to the conclusion. We really have to just think about the dialogue and think about the whole scenario and the logic behind it. For question 5, we stand there feeling awkward. Why does Paul feel awkward? Right, so I've put the extract where it says we stand there feeling awkward, and this flows really well with question 4 again. The fact that these two characters don't really know each other, they're not used to each other, they don't know any information or just like any knowledge of one another. So that best suits option C. He's not used to talking to Mr. Riggs like this. So they're not used to talking to each other in, let's say, like a casual manner or in a way where Paul feels appreciated via Mr. Riggs' praise. So for question 6, an expression of regret passes over his face. Why does the writer describe Mr. Riggs like this? So let's just take a moment to pause and look at the phrase, an expression of regret. So regret means you wish you had chosen something else or maybe had stuck with your original plan. It's basically, I would say, like guilt, right? So you didn't want to have chosen what you had, right? Knowing that definition, A would be the best option because A reflects regret the best. So the answer for question 6 would be A, to show that Mr. Riggs regretted taking his original action. For our third text, we have a poem called My Friends, the Things That Do Attain. So in this poem, they talk about having a nice life in a wonderful area, right? In this area, we have the characters surrounded in very lovely nature, and they also talk to someone called my friend, which we can assume is perhaps the audience or maybe even another character. So let's get started with the questions. So the central theme of the poem is the what? So throughout the poem, we have a lot of beautiful visual imagery. I've just put up the first stanza as an example. We have the words like the happy life, the riches left, not got with pain, the fruitful grounds, the quiet mind. We have some techniques here like listing that kind of paint us this picture of a really calm area and, well, happiness and contentedness. So that best aligns with option B, finding a happy life in the mean estate. So for question 8, how does the personification of death affect the meaning in line 16? So line 16 is up on the board, neither wish death nor fear his might. So please note that death is personified as a person or like as a man, right? Because the pronoun is his. So we want an answer that reflects that, that it's a person, right? But at the same time, we want the sentence or the answer to reflect that death is something that they should not be afraid of, but it should not be something that they should want, right? That it is something that they might want to accept instead. This best aligns with B, so because it tells us it's someone, right? So someone not to be feared, so that takes that off, and is less threatening than an abstract concept. So that means that we shouldn't fear it, and we should just accept it if it does happen, and also not wish it upon other people. So for question 8, the answer would be B. Question 9 asks us, which of the following statements summarizes the relationship of lines 1 to 2 to the rest of the poem? So lines 1 to 2 is, my friends, the things that do attain, the happy life be there I find. So just looking at these two lines, it has an optimistic start. So it tries to tell us that what they're going to be talking about the poem is all the beauty in this area, all the happiness that they experience in their life. So it's not something that is negative, and it sets the tone for the entire poem. So by introducing this optimistic tone, we get an idea of what the rest of the poem is going to be like, and that best aligns with option C. And lastly, for question 10, another way of saying the household of continuance in line 8 is what? So the household, let's say household means like a home or a family, and continuance means that it does not stop, right? That it is resilient, right? It stands between the test of time, right? So that best aligns with A, an unbroken home, because that means that this home will continue, like continuance, right? And that it won't it won't discontinue, right? It'll just keep on going. So A is a good answer. So that's it for this test. Just to review our key points, I hope you guys were able to try and form your own answers by using your own logic when you couldn't find the answer directly in the text. And also, I hope you guys got a chance to practice and recognize figurative language. So that's it for this test. I'll see you guys next lesson. Bye.